Hello and welcome back to part 11 of the Corvette Video Restoration Diary series. In the last episode, we found out that, hey, you can have brand new weather stripping and have it all installed properly and still have water leaks all over the place. So got that issue all sorted out-ish. Mainly it's all taken care of. But in this episode, we still got to get the doors all back together. All right, so there's still all kinds of electrical stuff going on inside the door that I still want to resolve. The next thing I want to tackle is the rear hatch switch. On my driver's side, I've never had a switch. There's just been a big hole in the door card where the switch was supposed to be. And as you saw in the last episode, I discovered that there's also a rear hatch switch on the passenger side as well. Let's see if I can fix that switch. So I took that switch, did an ohm test on it, and it doesn't work. There's no continuity through the thing. So it's just a momentary switch. So it should be very simple. So for the first time ever, I bought the correct stuff to use to clean out the inside of the switch without taking it apart. There's this stuff called contact cleaner, and this stuff is like toxic because I got some of it on my keyboard by mistake. Oh my gosh, it discolored the keys. So be careful with this stuff. So all I did was get that contact cleaner, spray a little bit inside the switch, wiggle the switch around a few times, let it dry out. Then I tested it again with my ohm meter and it actually worked. So that was a fix. Yeah. All right, nice. So now I got that switch working. So now I'm going to take that switch and instead of putting it back in the passenger side, I'm going to put it in the driver's side because obviously that's the side I'm going to use more. But there is still a place to put a switch on the passenger side, so I might as well put one there. I'll just make one myself because like I said, it's just a really simple momentary switch. So before I do all this stuff with the switch, I need to make sure that all the wiring on the driver's side is going to work. Inside the door, there's just a little pigtail hanging down inside there, and all I did was just jump it. So if you want, it's got two little prongs inside of it. You can just get a paper clip, the same one that you use to check your trouble codes with. Just shove that bad boy in between those two contacts and it should go click and open up your rear hatch. If it doesn't, oh my gosh, you got wiring issues. I didn't have any wire issues. It worked perfectly. So now I just need to get the switch going. So to replace the switch itself, I just got a momentary switch off of eBay. I figured I'd get a red one because, hey, it looks cool. Emergency eject button. I don't know. I probably could have got black and it would have matched a lot better, but it's really hard to see the switch down there when you're looking for it. So red actually is kind of a good color for this. Unfortunately, I don't have any video of this. I just have these still pictures to show you, but it's a really simple process. I just made some leads for the switch, and on the ends of those leads, I just put some spade connectors because they just go inside the female end of the door card harness. So I just made leads about this long to plug into that connector inside the door card. So the switch is still way too small to fit in the square or the rectangle opening that's inside the door card. So I'm going to need some kind of an adapter in between those two. All I did was just get a washer. I just got a round washer, made the hole big enough in the middle with the drill bit to make sure the switch went inside that hole. And then I needed to just cut off one side of that round washer so it fit into that rectangle hole of the door card. Once I got that bad boy cut and it fit, I painted it black, let the paint dry, and then I used my favorite new glue, the 3M weather strip adhesive, to glue that bad boy on because it seems like that glue is always easy to peel off if you don't like it, and it will still hold things relatively well. So that's why I use that glue again, because I want it, this is just temporary. I don't want it to be permanently glued onto the door card. it actually isn't too bad of a hack job. When you're looking at it and you look down there, you're like, oh, it's red button. You don't even notice the dumb washer and all that because everything's black in my car and it blends in pretty good. So another problem is solved. Yay! Now I have an eject switch for both the driver's side and the passenger side. This is actually the hardest door card I think I've ever put back on without breaking anything, but I haven't done a lot. I only have like 7 or 8 cars. I haven't done a million of these things yet, but for whatever reason, man, my C4, it was a little rough getting this thing back on. I broke that bezel that has the puddle light inside of it. I broke that thing like 2 times, plastic welded it back together, tried to put it back together in the car again. It cracked again, and I was not happy because after I plastic welded it, I painted it and did a bunch of stuff to it to try to make it look nice. Still broke. So I repaired it again with plastic weld, and then I Gorilla Glued the heck out of it so every little nook and cranny was filled up. It shouldn't break again. Normally I'm not a big fan of the Gorilla Glue on the plastic, but it's already broken. It's not gonna get any worse. So if you get a new bezel and you want to install it without breaking it, this is the procedure that I found that worked best for the Generation 1 of the C4 door cards. So you have to get the bezel completely out and removed, and all the stuff around it. There's a piece of door trim, or where your arm rests on that door trim. It's about this long. That whole thing just snaps off. I don't have a video of me taking that off, but here's a picture of it disassembled. Here. Is it here? It's here. Here's the picture. Then after that, there's like a little square metal plate that goes down inside of there. That's what's putting all the force, or that's actually what's holding on to the door with the door card every time you grab and pull the door shut. That's doing the main bulk of holding the pressure, or just, you know, keeping things from falling apart. So you have to make sure that metal plate is back in there. So I didn't have that in the first couple times because I couldn't make it fit right. So basically the steps go like this: put the bezel in, snap the long piece of trim that goes where your arm is, put the little square plate in, and this I do have a video for. So this is what I did to try to keep it from breaking a third time. Okay, attempt number 3. I think I have it figured out now after the third attempt. Okay, bezel. Bezel goes in first. Put the bezel in, put it in this direction. Push the light in and clap. And bam, it's in there. Okay. Next, armrest snappy thing goes in. Then plate, big part towards you, goes in. I haven't snapped this armrest thing in here on here yet. And I actually basically need to get it so this almost goes right underneath this so there's enough room. So it's, there you go. So it's got to go like that. There. Now it's all together. Now my screws down here will line up properly, and this will line up properly, and there. I think I finally got this darn thing reassembled properly. Because of course the manual, the illustration is not very helpful. It doesn't really, just says remove 5 screws. Well, you know, partner, a little more to it than that. There we go. Now that is better. That is better than how it was before. So the screw holes are there-ish. Hopefully I'll be able to get those lined up nice and straight. And now I gotta put in the screws for this, and it should be golden. I've done this way too many times already. Now I hate these screws because they rattle and come loose. So I'm going to put it back the way it was stock. I'll probably just change these out with nuts and regular, like, I don't know, 832s, 1032s, some kind of size like that. And then then I can have a nut on the back side to actually hold it on, and then Loctite it so it will stay together. But I'm gonna try this. I'm gonna use the correct screws and all this again. See if they rattle out. If they rattle out, then I'll try Loctiting it, and then if that doesn't work, then I'll take them apart and replace it with nuts. But now, finally, after all this time, for the first time ever, I have this door put back properly now. Okay, it's just a little dirty, but bam. Okay, that is 100 times better. Now the whole thing is going to go together in one piece. I don't know how you can get this door. I guess you can do it with the door on, now that I kind of know how to do that a little bit better. But it's way easier to just have the card off and mess with that trim panel and then put it all back on in one solid piece. Now I've got a lot of stuff done on the inside of the doors thus far. I've completely taken out the door shield so you can get to everything inside of that. I'm not going to cover that in this video. I have a separate how-to video posted for that, so if you want to check that out, just click the link over here. In that video, I also cover the door latch mechanism, how to take it out, how to clean it if you want to, also how to replace the door fuzz that's inside the door, the felt stuff that the window rests against as it's rolled down. Because think about it, you slam the door, you don't want that glass to hit the outside of it, so that's what that felt does. That's always wore out, so make sure you replace that properly. That's all in that how-to video on how to remove the door shield. I also replaced the door lock actuator in there. That's the little electrical part that goes click, click, and unlocks and locks your door. Those things are expensive for Corvettes. I don't know why, because Corvette's in the name. But you can also buy those things for like $10, $20. They're just generic GM things. So I also have a separate video on how to find that and replace that door actuator. I'll post a link here and also have that in the description as well. Now, finally, after all that, I can attempt once again to try to get the door panel on without breaking the bezel. So these are the steps that I found that seem to work best. Step number 1, hook up all the electrical connections back into the door. Now the door card, it's not gonna float, so you're gonna have to put it on your knee or something, bend over and reach down inside the car and plug all those connectors back in. There's like 4 or 5 of them. There's everything from the door light, the puddle lights, to the lock actuator, to the door hatch, the rear hatch actuator, the wiper switches, and the locking and unlocking mechanism. So you got to plug all that stuff back in and be careful with it because these wires are short. Don't move this stuff around too much or you will break things. Because as I've mentioned in a previous episode, I also broke the windshield wiper assembly. I broke that off of the door card and had to repair that in my plastic welding video. So check that out if you break yours as well. Long story short, these wires are short. Be very careful with them. Don't move the door card around a lot after you've plugged in the wires. Okay, here we go. Oh, actually, I need to. So because my lock thing is just about dead, the backing plate for it, I don't even want to pull it off anymore because it's about to fall off. So normally you would have the switch installed and then just screw this part in, but I'm going to do it differently. My switch is already installed into the harness. I'm going to install the switch now into the door. Okay, so most of these wires have enough slack in them. So I'm plugging in my hatch release. I'm going to plug in my light. That turns on, that's a good sign. The only one that doesn't have a lot of slack is actually this windshield wiper one. So be careful of that. I've already broken it, so I don't want to break it again. So I had to repair that. Okay, so now that's on. Snap. Okay. So what worked good for me was just to balance it on my knees and reach over the inside and plug all those bad boys back in. Step number 2, you have to install the door lock rod now without breaking the bezel. This is the part that kept breaking the bezel on me. The door lock rod, the rod that goes from one side of the door all the way over to the door latch mechanism moves back and forth, and that's a long rod. and it's attached to the door, and it doesn't have a lot of movement from side to side, in and out, when you're installing the door card, because it's supposed to be tight against the door. It kept breaking the bottom part of my door bezel completely off, where it goes inside of where the lock is. It just completely kept breaking that part off. So it's glued like crazy now. Hopefully it won't break again, but it still can. So be really careful. I found what works best. Just push that thing all the way to the lock position, all the way forward in the car, so it's sticking all the way out. Line it up in the bezel, and then it should stay lined in, or aligned. So mainly, the hardest thing to do with this is getting the damn door latch thing in here, because I've already broken this trim panel thing several times just because of it. Alright, there we go, like that. Okay, come on. Come on in. What's going on? Still not close enough, I believe. That's my problem. Forward, and I still am nowhere even close to getting this lined up. Okay, now you've got the electrical connections installed, you've got the door rod installed, the door lock rod installed into the bezel. Now be really careful moving this door around. You don't want to move it too much up and down, or you'll break things like I have done several times. The top of the door actually attaches into the inside of the door, kind of like with a hook on the top. On the top of the door card, there's a piece of metal that's kind of an upside down U, and that kind of just latches into the top of the door, and it will just glow down and stay, and that's what keeps it from going from side to side. Well, once you have everything all in there and you try to lift the door up to get that up and over, that's where I kept breaking things all the time. So don't move the door up and down too much. Hold the door still, put pressure on the bezel. As you're putting pressure on the bezel, then kind of bend the top of the door card, bend it out a little bit, and then kind of force it up and over without going too much up and down here on the bezel, and then the thing will go on. I mean, that took me forever to get that process to work, but it did seem to work. It's not perfect. Okay, I'm getting the top part to hook. It's almost there, man. Come on. Shoot. It's going. It's a little bit on the back here. There. Oh my gosh. Do I have it? Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, I think I have it on finally. Oh my gosh, I think I do. Okay, so make sure you keep pressure here in the middle as much as you can, because I've broken this, because the dang latch keeps grabbing and breaking this thing off, because it's just got so much pressure on it from coming out of the hole right here. So keep pressure here in the middle, try not to lift it up too high, then snap the top part in, and then push it back down, and now it's aligned. Now it's just a matter of screws. Oh my gosh, I think I got this all back together. Yay. So now, after all that, the door panel is finally installed. Yay! All right, finally, after all that work, and this is like a couple months all together, getting all these different things done inside the doors and trying to fix the weather stripping. The doors are now reassembled. Let's try and go through the car wash once again. All right, so both sides are leaking a tiny bit, but the good news is they're both leaking between the glass and the rubber. Both these sides, like this is leaking a little bit up here. I didn't do a lot of adjustment to this window. Actually, I don't think I did any adjustment to it. This one I did more adjustment to. Yeah, it's leaking between the rubber and the window, which is fine. You know, I'll just fine tune that adjustment maybe later, but this is 100% better than it was before. In a natural rainstorm, it'll have even less rain than this, and I'll try to keep the car covered as much as possible, but that is a huge improvement. As you can see, it's not perfect, but oh my gosh, it's so much better. Now remember, rain, as it's drizzling, it's really not gonna put a lot of water in the car, but as you're driving, that will put a little bit more water in the car, kind of more like what's happening through this high pressure car wash. But I'm not super concerned about that yet. My main thing that I wanted to address is, hey, I can park the car outside and it will rain and the car will not fill up with water. That is fixed. Driving around in the rain, not perfect yet. So I'll have to go back in there and do a little bit more adjusting and tweaking on the window alignment. You saw how to do that in the last episode. I'll have to do that myself a little bit more. And it might also be that front A-pillar weather stripping, because I don't know how old that rubber is on the A-pillar. It came with the car. I don't know where it came from. I don't know if it's the correct kind of rubber, because there's a softer foam rubber and a harder thicker rubber. I still don't know which one I'm supposed to have because I have both kinds on my car. I'm guessing the new rubber I got, that's the foam rubber, is the right one, and this rubber is the cheaper, thicker rubber that I'm probably not supposed to have, but whatever. With a little more tweaking and a little more work, I'm sure it can be perfect. So I'll play with it some more the next time I have the door card off. Well, that's everything that I wanted to show you for episode 11 of the C4 Restoration Video Diaries series. Make sure you check out the next episode, because we're going to cover things like, we're finally going to get to something where it's not a required thing to fix on the car. It's actually something optional and to make life more fun in the car. Gonna start working on my stereo upgrade and putting in a subwoofer. So gonna get into how to do all the wiring for that and keep a stock stereo. The other thing I'm going to try to fix that is something that is broken on the car, and that's the horn. I don't have a horn in the car. Been lots of times where I've wanted to honk at people. Let's get that bad boy fixed in the next episode. I really do want to give you my humble appreciation and thanks for hanging out with me on the C4 adventure thus far. If you guys have any comments or questions, just leave those in the comments section below. If you haven't had a chance to subscribe and all that other YouTube jazz, make sure you get that done if you want to see future episodes. Thanks again for hanging out on the C4 adventure with me so far. Have a fantastic day. And happy C4ing.